I'm Linda Tomasini from CNES, which is the French space agency. I'm in charge of capacity development at CNES. I've been working in different projects, and the project that I will be presenting is called the Working Group Africa, and it was funded by the European Commission under a program called the FPCUP, the Framework Partnership Agreement for Copernicus User Uptake. So I guess you know all Copernicus, which is the Earth observation program of the European Commission. So it's a program including different satellites, different type of sensors. It's a long-lasting program that has started more than 15 years ago already, and it will last for a very long time also. So the Copernicus is providing reliable data, calibrated data, validated data also, and all the data are open, free access to every researcher or citizen or user in the world. Okay, so under this program, we have organized a training of trainers project aiming at training African trainers to the use of Copernicus data and services also, because Copernicus is providing data, but also services, products in different thematics, and also regarding the different components of the Earth system, like the atmosphere, the continental surfaces, the ocean, and so there are services related to risk management. So I won't go into details because it's not the topic of our webinar today, but just let me give you some information about the project that we have implemented with 12 institutions from 8 European countries. And so we have trained 20 African trainers to the use of Copernicus data and services in 3 languages, and you can see the countries on the map from which the different trainers were originated. And the objective was to co-develop and implement Copernicus local training sessions, and to train with the aim to train in total more than 300 local trainees, and to also integrate Copernicus modules into existing local curricula and training catalogs. And the objective was also to develop the network of Copernicus relays and academies in Africa. Now this network has the new name, which is the Network of Copernicus Ambassadors. And we have also organized, in the framework of this project, webinars in 3 languages. And this project, it was implemented from October 2022 to October 2025. And now we have decided to keep the project active through the organization of webinars. And so the webinar today is the 4th webinar of a series addressing topics of interest for the African continent. So we had already 1 webinar on the topic of hydrology, another one on forest monitoring, and which was an opportunity also to introduce the biomass mission, which is a European mission aiming at monitoring the forest biomass in the world. And we have also organized a webinar dedicated to landslides monitoring. So it was 2 weeks ago. So if you want to access the replays of the webinar, just send us messages and we will open an access to our platform. Just coming back to the training content that was developed in the framework of this project, we have developed almost around 10 modules addressing generic skills to related to Copernicus data processing, but also remote sensing data processing in general. So you can see that there are modules dedicated to Python scripting, for instance, or artificial intelligence for Earth observation data analysis. Also module dedicated to web mapping, and each module was implemented online. So we have developed a digital training platform hosting all the training contents and also the recordings of the lesson, the lectures that were given in the framework of this project. And there are also other training materials being hosted on this platform, like the exercises also that were used by the trainers and the answers to the exercise. And this platform is open to new users on demand. So you just have to send us a CV with a motivation letter. And for the moment now, we have around 80 new users of the platform. And as I said already, on this platform, we are also uploading all the replays of the webinars that we are organizing. So in the second phase of the project, the African trainers have organized themselves and implemented local training sessions. And so this was really a success, because it was an opportunity to reach out to a much larger community. And so in total, more than 1,000 trainees were trained to the use of Copernicus data in all the countries that you have the list here, like in São Tomé and Príncipe, Mozambique, Kenya, Tanzania, Madagascar, Mali, Congo, Benin, Morocco, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, and Ivory Coast also. So there are trainers, African trainers in all these countries who are continuing also to work on the topic. And so if you want to reach out to them, we can also make you establish contact with them if you wish, if you're interested. Okay, and so I think that's all I wanted to say about the project, just also to show you the different partners who have contributed to the project. So there were partners from the Portuguese Space Agency, for instance, which they were very helpful to develop all the training material in Portuguese. And we have worked with universities also from Lisbon, Turku, and also with IDGEO. So today the webinar that we are organizing is supported by IDGEO, Cecilia LEDUC. And also, of course, the Institute for Research for the Development, IRD, which is a French Institute of Research. And today we have the pleasure to welcome Jean-François Faure and Delaitre, who are researchers in this institute. And Eric is an expert in remote sensing. Jean-François is expert in digital platform development also, and in remote sensing. And they've been working on the topic of mangrove monitoring for more than 10 years now. So we are very pleased to have them with us today. And so I will let the floor to them so they can introduce to you the work that they've been doing on mangrove monitoring. And then we will have also a time slot for questions. So please feel free to ask your question in the chat, and also to intervene. I would say after the presentation or in between, because we will have 2 presentations. So thank you very much. Okay, so I will stop the sharing of my screen.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. So I begin. So I share my screen. That's good for you?
Yes, we can see your slide.
Yes. Okay. So the work I'm now presenting to you was carried out by a PhD student at the University of Antananarivo, Madagascar, Miss Ravaka. Alors, je vais passer. Okay, a brief introduction to the study area, the Betsibouk Delta, located at the mouth of an estuary in the northwestern Madagascar. The Betsibouk is one of the Madagascar largest rivers. So I begin with Landsat imagery. So the objective is to study long-term environmental changing and to understand the underlying processes that influence the morphology and dynamics of this delta in terms of sedimentation and vegetation. For that methodology, we select 8 Landsat images dating from 1973 to 2019, taken by various sensors of Landsat, MSS, TM, and OLI, which are cloud-free, it's important, taken during the dry season from August to October, and at low tide, except for the 1973 images. You can see all the characteristics to this table for the time of acquisition and the tidal range for each image. The methodology used is fairly straightforward. Simply, first, atmospheric correction were applied using the dark object subtraction method. Then the NDVI was calculated for each image. And finally, 2 thresholds were applied when the NDVI is negative, whereas this is water. When the NDVI is between 0 and 0.3, this is bare soil. And when the NDVI is greater than 0.3, this is vegetation. NDVI is a famous radiometric index to follow vegetation. So we will use it to study, to analyze the dynamics of this sedimentary delta. The first illustration for the result, just with these 2 maps for 1973 and 2019. You can see downstream, the new highlights of vegetation. This is a red here and here. Donc, the apparition of new highlights on the extension of mangrove. And upstream, the development, the loss of vegetation and the development of bare soil. This is a great trend for this estuary with mangrove. The diagram on the right shows the areas covered by water bare soil and vegetation from 1989 to 2019. The year 1973 has been excluded due to difference in pixel size. It is clear that bare soil covers the largest area of the history, and that is increased steadily during all the period until 2015, and decrease slightly after. On the contrary, sorry. Okay. On the contrary, for water and vegetation, we can see a decrease of their surface here and here.
Actually, we cannot see your mouse, I guess.
Ah.
On voit pas la souris quand.
Ouais.
Mais bon, c'est pas très grave, on voit bien sur le graphique.
And now, you cannot see my mouse? No?
Oh, yes, I can see.
Yes,
it's very small.
can see
yes.
Okay. We can calculate a transition matrix to quantify the changes between 1999 and 2019. And these changes can be plotted on the map, like on the left side here. For water, for example, we can see that the areas lost are divided here into bare soil and vegetation here. Alors, it's not easy to. And for the bare soil, my mouse. Bare soil areas remain almost stable, with the area lost being replaced by vegetation. And vegetation is the least stable. Almost half of its area has been lost to bare soil. With this map, we can see the downstream section showing the emergence and the spread of islets where the water give way to bare soil, shown in light blue. On the spread of vegetation across the bare ground, shown in orange. Okay. And now, using single theme map, such as this one, focusing on vegetation, we can track the spread of vegetation since 1989 89. In the downstream section here, but also in the upstream channel, like here, in dark green. The darker the green, the more recent the extension. Okay. With these two zoom, we can get a better view for the extension of the islet downstream, and for the extension of vegetation is a channel in the upstream. And now the loss of vegetation. Upstream, the vegetation disappeared due to tanning. Tanning is soil compaction and hardening, salinization, and reduced flooding. On downstream, certain islets was harvested for charcoal production through clear cutting, like on this islet here. As always, the chronology is such that the darker brown the color, the more recent the event. Like we can see that on legend. And now to capture the difference in dynamics between upstream and downstream more accurately, transect can be established perpendicular to the axis of the river or estuary. And the areas for each transect can be quantified even by remaining with the right on the left bank of the river, or by including the river bank more broadly. In our case, 12 transects were established from upstream, number 1, to downstream, that's number 12. Here is the result for each transect on this diagram, starting with the water areas as percentage. Firstly, we can see the increase of water from upstream, number 1, transect number 1, to downstream, transect number 12, with some variation in the middle part. The situation is more stable during the time upstream, and this is not the case, more dynamics for the downstream part of the estuary. And taking time into account, The lighter the blue, the older the data, like we can see it with the legend. These two graphs, these two diagrams, show that water bodies are shrinking very gradually, particularly downstream. The other result for bare soil, the area decreases sharply from upstream, here, transect number 1, to downstream, transect number 12. But the decrease is irregular, both spatially and temporally. The changes are very significant in the middle part for the bare soil of the estuary. And now, to monitor the vegetation, the same diagram. The vegetation increases irregularly from upstream to downstream, up to transect number 8, and after decrease up to transect 12. However, over time, the areas covered by vegetation have decreased very sharply. The darker the green line, the more recent they are. However, this trend reverses in red downstream from the transect 8, where vegetation has been occupying an increasing area since 2011. As we can see here or here. Okay. To conclude this first section on the long-term analysis of Landsat imagery between 1973 and 2019, an increase in mud flights on bare soil at the expense of mangrove of water, an increase in mangrove cover downstream and in the channel upstream. We can observe also the tanification with natural senescence of mangroves, and also a mangrove regression due to clear cutting of mangrove at some areas. Okay, this is the end of my first presentation. I don't know if we take some question now or if I continue.
I don't see any question in the chat, so I guess you can continue. Maybe I have one question, but you will answer through your next presentation. I was wondering if you are using also Sentinel-2 data to complement the time series of NDVI. So please proceed. You can go forward with your second presentation.
Okay, and I just want to share my screen. Okay.
So first question from Sarah Lazizi, who is asking, how do you set the thresholds for NDVI?
Oh, when it is, we know, as we can see in literature, scientific literature, that when the NDVI is negative, this is water.
Mm-hmm.
If we analyze the radiometric signature of different type of surface, like water, bare soil, and vegetation,
Mm-hmm.
with NDVI, when the NDVI is negative, this is water.
Mm-hmm.
And when the NDVI is greater than 0.3, we have to adjust if 0.3 or 0.29 or 0.27, we have to make some tests to choose the best threshold for between bare soil and vegetation. I have generally, for me, the best threshold is 0.3 between bare soil and vegetation.
But it depends maybe on the area you are observing, or so it is for.
Well, yes, the kind of vegetation, the kind of sensor, the kind of radiometric correction, but then it's not absolutely 0.3. You
Yes.
have to make some tests.
So you're testing with in situ data, so you can validate, or you are adjusting with a histogram, or?
Yes, with in situ data, l'habitude. With it depends the kind of image we used.
Mm-hmm. There's a question regarding, so it's a manual adjustment of the threshold, more like, it's not fully, it's not automatic.
No, it's not automatic, but it's near 0.3. Well, this is
Okay.
and after we adjust, it depends the type of vegetation and the type of image.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for your answer. It's clear.
Ouais.
Okay.
Alors.
So maybe for the second presentation, if we can stay in like 10 to 10 minutes, is it okay for the second presentation?
Okay, ah oui.
Because then we will have the presentation by Jean-François on the platform, I guess.
Okay. That's good for you. You see my screen?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. Donc now this is the same area, always in Madagascar, but now with Sentinel-2 imagery. And we work at the time of the year, not a long time series, but the time of the year. And this is also the work of the same PhD student of the University of Antananarivo. Okay.
Io vorrei.
That's good. Donc, to analyze the change during only 1 year. The methodology, we have selected 38 Sentinel-2 images, cloud-free, and the same radiometric index was used in DVI, the same threshold, and here with the 38 images, we can calculate the frequency for water, the frequency for pixel water, for berthole on vegetation for each pixel. And after, we can make a composite map combining the three annual frequency maps, water, berthole, and vegetation. And finally, we can do a classification based on trend in the frequency of water, berthole, and vegetation for each pixel. This is a map for the water frequency in 2020, for example. You have the legend from 0, never, 0 in reality is white, not in orange. This is a mistake. So this is a frequency from 1 to 100. Always the pixel is always waterlogged. Okay. So here we can see in this map the frequency of the water to this estuary. So we can distinguish the permanent water in blue for the river and the rarely covered by water here in orange. And this is to follow the process during 1 year for water, and we discover, for example, some lakes, not temporary lakes, in some place in this estuary. At few seats, we can zoom different cases for the frequency of water from highlight information to irrigated crops. This map is for the frequency in berthole. Donc we can see for the upstream, this is quasi-permanent berthole in brown. This is more extensive upstream. And this is, for example, shoal or a future islets here. Here, okay. Some zoom. We can see, for example, the clear cutting in mangrove, the senescence area for mangrove, and also irrigated crops. On the frequency with vegetation, we can distinguish the permanent vegetation downstream, mainly mangroves, but sometimes other types of vegetation, herbaceous or cyperacea, for example, for the upper part of the estuary. Some zoom also. And now, with these three maps, we can construct with a triangular diagram 9 classes with different frequencies between water, 100 of water here, this pole, donc number one constantly waterlogged. Here, number 5, constantly on bare soil, this pole. And after, constantly on vegetation, this one, this here. And after, 6 classes of different frequencies between water, bare soil, and vegetation. And the result is this map. This is a summary map for 1 year to understand the different processes between vegetation, bare soil, and water for the year 2020. Okay, this is very interesting to permanent water, permanent vegetation, permanent bare soil, and non-permanent in bare soil, water, and vegetation. Okay. Some zoom with photography for different cases. Okay, mangrove, tanification, clear cutting, lack, temporary lack in the center of some islets, tan, and also irrigated crops. And to conclude, with the Sentinel-2 imagery, for 1 year, we have identified the different types of environment in the delta based on their frequency of water coverage, bare soil, and vegetation. This is a new insight of knowledge for the seasonal dynamics and biophysical functioning on the delta. Limitation of this method when using optical imagery, unavailability of usable imagery during the wet season due to cloud cover, inability to detect and monitor water dynamics in mangrove covered islands. Comparative analysis can be made with another year to see the difference. And as perspective, we can make a multi-year analysis based on climatic condition and human activities. And this is the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric. So we can clearly see the added value of Sentinel-2, which is to provide a time series of data, which allow to make this dynamic analysis of the land cover in the estuary that you are studying. So we have one question in the chat. Are you using also Sentinel-1?
Alors, we don't use Sentinel-1, not for the moment, but maybe in the future, yes, of course, to have the water, but only water or not water, I think, when the cloudy season, okay, but it will be difficult to see the difference between some type of vegetation on bare soil.
Because there are techniques, for instance, to monitor rice based on the radar Sentinel-1 data. So maybe it could be interesting to see if there's the possibility to make the distinction between rice and mangrove through the by using S1 Sentinel-1 data. But on the moment, what you're doing is to make the distinction between crops and mangrove is by analyzing the dynamic of the NDVI, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so thanks for the question related to Sentinel-1. Okay, so maybe so we will see if there are more questions in the chat. I propose that we go on with the presentation and Jean-François, and also at the end, we will have also a time slot for questions. So thank you, Eric. Jean-François?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes, great. Okay, good morning, everybody. So my name is Jean-François Faure, as it was said. I will give you an introduction to a platform that is called MangMap, and it's meant to monitor mangroves using Sentinel-2 data. Of course, it's a teamwork, so you have the names of the people who collaborate. Eric is one of them. So first, let's start with maybe the plan of my presentation, which should last about 20 minutes, maybe something like that. A brief introduction to MangMap and the portal, focus on the platform. Then I will illustrate the platform using an example in Madagascar, which is more or less Mombetoga Bay, also another study site you saw right now. And I will finish with some perspectives. So first reminder, mangroves occupy intertropical areas. They cover 3/4 of all coastal areas. It's about 200,000 square kilometers. They are adapted to intertidal conditions, so they need to be submerged by saline waters. They have adapted to these harsh ecosystemic conditions with specific vegetation routes and physiological adaptation to saline conditions. They have numerous ecosystem services that are furnished by mangroves, such as coastal protection against climatic catastrophes. But they also have a strong biodiversity in both terrestrial and marine areas. They represent natural resources, food and so forth, and they sequestrate carbon, and they have a lot of studies that are going on, including IRD teams with ESA on blue carbon sequestration. So population on coastal areas depend upon mangroves, and the well-being of population depend upon mangrove health. But of course, there are threats to mangroves. They have decreased between 30 to 50% over the last 50 years, according to authors in literature. And this is the cause of this destruction is both human and climatic, with climate change impacts. Human being represented by agriculture or urban growth in coastal areas where population tend to concentrate. You have an example here with rice cultivation. And climate change impacts, they have an illustration in French Guiana where you have a lot of mangroves that disappear naturally, but these trends tend to intensify in time. So what is the platform general objectives? This is what I will show you is really an example of how to give added value to scientific work, such as it was presented by Eric. And so we're not into a scientific project as you will see, but really on the platform. That means to disseminate results originating from research projects to the global society. So we designed the platform to focus on simple needs, enabling the end user to document studies on mangroves and have indicators or indexes of their status of health. Of course, we tried to adapt these scientific results originating from IRD, but from other scientific partners to an operational framework because it's an online platform giving online and on-demand services. We designed it also to provide to access free open data satellite in our case Sentinel-2 data and standardized handling of derivative products that we calculate from time series of Sentinel-2 data at no cost for all users. And we develop and maintain this platform in support to any scientific, technical, or public policy related studies that concern mangroves. So our positioning is an open science tool. We need cooperation with partners, as I will explain. We have an international cooperation multi-site approach thanks to this co-program funded by the CNES. So it's not focused on just one single region. The target users are people originating from academic entities, research agencies, professors, studies, technicians, but also public actors and engineers in geomatics that understand remote sensing. You need to understand remote sensing to use the platform. In support to the public sector, but also any NGO or private sector that is wanting to document dynamics in mangroves in time. And of course, if we can support any educational use of the platform because we believe it's a good way also, the platform, to have an introduction to remote sensing analysis and remote sensing handling of data. As I mentioned, we are building a collaborative network around the platform. So we need scientific partners in the study sites. We need references to train the models that we implemented in the platform. We need local relays also that we mobilize to co-organize webinars or training sessions. And we're building a network of end users. So we want to do more in terms of networking and associate more the end users to the life of the platform. So we have a portal online with a website that you can see here. Through the website, you can access the platform that you see here. And we also have social media with a LinkedIn account. And we have a lot of posts and a news feed on the website. On the website, these are French illustrations, but of course, we have an English version of MangMap online. So in the website, you will find information on the project itself, the partnerships and so forth, but also on the products and services that you have access to when you access the platform. We have a news feed and a contact form, as I mentioned, and it's all in English when needed. So the platform that you access to the website gives an interactive dashboard and that allows you to view and analyze time series of satellite imageries. So we have two types of products and services. First type is those that are recurrent and pre-calculated so that you can consult time series of raw data. Alias, it's not raw, it's level 2A Sentinel-2 data, as we will see. You can browse and consult all indexes and temporal composites of indexes that we calculate. And we also calculate quarterly a vector file, which is a spatial distribution of mangroves, and I will explain that. And that is also made available in the platform. So this is the first type of products and services. And the second one is on-demand analysis services. So we have three as of today. Statistical reports on changes in indexes over time. So you can build your graphs using your own areas of interests. We have on-demand processing that calculates differences in temporal indexes of your choice within the area of your choice. And we have also assessments, automatic assessments of changes in spatial distribution in time. So you can specify your area and have an assessment of what has changed between two dates in terms of spatial distribution of mangroves. The products are very simple. It's not as elaborated as you saw in Eric's presentation, but it's a first, let's say, form of disseminating basic products that you can access freely and that you can feed your own studies, whether you're a scientist or not, or public actor, with documented data originating from remote sensing. So more into details. So you can browse and consult a time series of reflectance Sentinel-2 level 2A. So the system fetches the data on the Copernicus data space ecosystem in level 2A, which is auto-rectified and calibrated in radiometric calibration. Before exposing the data, we of course we crop it, and we have a back office in the platform, especially designed to feed the platform with new study areas. So we have cropping processes and limitation of the extension of the scene before we expose it. So you can download it only the areas that contain mangroves. So the system, whenever a new image arrives, calculates 11 spectral indexes that are listed here. It calculates temporal composites of these indexes on monthly, quarterly, semester, and yearly basis. And as I was mentioning, it calculates every quarter mangrove vector. And to do that, it's manually done by an operator whenever we create a new study site in the platform. And we set using the reference that is furnished through collaboration with local scientific partners. We have a reference based a baseline vector reference of spatial distribution of mangroves, and we use this vector to threshold the SWIR band in Sentinel-2, adapting it to local conditions so that we can, in any other image that arrives, search for mangrove inside these thresholds boundaries of the medium infrared. So we use the best image in the time series every quarter to make that calculation and give access to this vector file. So as you can see, it's Sentinel-2 based. It's cloud dependent. So in the time series, we have a lot of images that have clouds, of course. We do not use Sentinel-1 yet. Maybe we will. But as of this date, this is how we process the time series from Sentinel-2. On this base, we have these three services I mentioned. So the first one is you choose your index, you choose your area of interest, and you ask the system to give you statistics on the evolution of the values of the index you chose. It's temporal composites indexes. The second one, you choose two dates, and you have a system that allows you to calculate online the difference between the two rasters, the two temporal composite index of your choice, and you can move the window, and so you have this information that is refreshed and updated as you move in the image. The third one is an assessment. It's more spatial analysis of the quarterly vector files. So you choose an area of your choice, or you can import an area of your choice, but you can draw it online as I will show you. And inside this area, you choose between the two dates of your choice. He will fetch the two vector files associated to these dates, and he will make a fusion of the vector files, and he will give you an assessment with an illustration and a table with numbers of the mangroves that is stable between the two dates, the mangroves that have disappeared, and the mangroves that have new mangroves that have developed on the area. Of course, it's while the demo mode is a bit awkward, but it just means that we can continuously try to improve the platform, and we have an operational framework, so it's all automated. But from time to time, we need to shut it down to make some versioning correction and some developments on the codes. But we do not have much period of interruption of services. We're still trying to develop new features. We'll talk about it in perspectives. And we are eager to have end user feedbacks also to improve the ergonomics of the platform. So we have 8 study sites. Yes, that's 8 as of today. The Bembe-Toka Bay that you saw in Eric's example with 3 sentinel tiles. We have 2 tiles in French Guiana, in central French Guiana coastal area. We have a tile in New Caledonia, in the North Province. We have a sentinel tile in Djibouti, and we have the project to extend this area to a second tile in southern Djibouti. We have one in Senegal on the south coast, and we have the other French territories, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Mayotte, which are in tropical areas, and we cover the tiles that you see cover the extent of mangroves of these islands. So you access the platform through the website. The illustrations are in French, I'm sorry, but they're all in English for the non-French speakers. So we will showcase in the Madagascar example. So this is what the interface looks like. So you have to connect. We have, if you remember the slide where I showed you the 2 types of services. We have automated processes on the data. So the consultation of the time series and indexes and temporal composites of indexes, you do not need to log in. But if you want the on-demand services, you need to log in. For those who know the Theia Land Data Center, you can log in with your Theia Land Data Center account. If not, you create a local account. This question mark, you can see, you have a description of a brief, very simple description of the platform. We do not, as of today, we do not have full tutorials available. We're working on it. So on the left side, you have the space navigation bar. You select the data you want to display, and you can add the data of your choice in a cart. Of course, I didn't mention it, I did, but maybe I can repeat that all products in the MangMap platform are downloadable without any constraints. At the bottom, you have the timeline where you navigate in the time series, whether it's a Sentinel-2 image time series or index of your choice or temporal composites of index of your choice. Here you have your tools where you can create or import your vector files, your areas of interest in which you will launch the on-demand services. And here you have some shortcuts. And the last one is the preset of the 8 areas. You can directly go to the area of your choice. So this is an example on the Bembe-Toka Bay that you recognize because it's the same area that Eric was working on. So you can directly access, as I mentioned, on the right-hand side with the shortcut. And you can choose the color composition of your choice. You can add to the card. And you can, on this on the left-hand side, where you have the yellow square, you have all the lists of indexes and temporal composites and vector files that you can choose when you develop the little arrow so that you can display it on the screen. This is an example for NDVI. So you see some holes in the picture. It's the remaining clouds. So here you have the temporal composites of the indexes that are pre-calculated. As I said, you have every month, every trimester, quarter, every semester or yearly composites that you can display on the screen. Here you have the an example of a mangrove quarterly spatial distribution vector file that you can consult. And since this screenshot, we moved this just for detail, but we moved this the location on the window in the left. I don't know if you see my mouse or not, but the mangrove, the area where you can ask for a display of the mangrove vector file is more upwards in this window, so it's more visible, it's more accessible. So here you have highlighted in yellow the place where you can create your vectors. So here you have an example of some vectors that were created. And if it's only when you select a vector that you can access the on-demand services that appear. If you don't select a vector file, they do not appear. I didn't mention it, but you have when you create vector files, you have a user space where you can store them and select them afterwards. I think you're limited. You have about 10 vectors that you can edit at a time. And the size of the vector files also is limited to certain numbers of nodes. So when you select a vector, then you have these three icons, shortcuts that appear. And the first one is for the statistical calculations in time series. The second one is for the surface balance, the assessment of mangrove loss or gain between two dates. And the third one is to calculate on-demand raster files of differences between time composites indexes. So the first example is the statistics calculation. So you choose, I didn't put all the steps, but when you click on that, then you choose the parameters, you choose your dates, and he will calculate automatically how the value of the index behaves in time. And you can import the table and the graph. If we look at the second one, then you choose, in this case, it's this area here that you draw on the screen, and you want to have an assessment on mangrove changes in terms of spatial distribution in time. So the result, once you've chosen your quarters and your year of start and end, is this type of results that you can import with some figures on what was gained, what was lost, what was stable, and a little map that illustrates where it happens. The last one is the calculation of rasters. So you draw a square like this, a window, and then you can move it. And inside, once it's calculated, you can move inside this second window, and it calculates, it updates the calculation, and you can import the difference. So this isn't, it's not an anomaly really indicator, because it's just an online calculation of two rasters, which are time composites of the index you chose, but it's an indication of anomalies in time. So it can be useful, and you can choose here, it's dynamic. If you choose the dates, it will refresh the information, and you can download it. Then you can also ask for some services based on transects in time. So here it's not, what you see in the graph is the value, the behavior of the value of the index you chose in time along the transect. And you can add different years, so you can compare years along the same transect, how the index behaves. This is an illustration of, well, it's not calculated automatically. It's a GIF animated picture, but it's the kind of thing you can do using the platform. You choose your dates. Here I just chose some print screens in specific dates, and I generated this animated GIF. So you can see in time what happens. It's an illustration using the NDVI. And here, if this is available on the LinkedIn, if you want to download it, we made another one in Mayotte after the cyclone. So you can see what happens in the area in terms of deforestation, for example, or in terms of colonization, or in terms of pests that attack mangroves in function of the season. And so you can see here on the western coast of this island in the center, that you have some mangroves that disappear on Europe here. So to conclude, perspectives, we have three directions. We have a second project that was submitted to the SCO, the Space Climate Observatory program that is led by CNES, to extend the sites to new areas, so with geographical expansion. Also, the main body of the project really is to focus on the building of this network of end users, of partners, with identification of webinars, of training session, with different type of training, and a third package which is focused on further developments with new features and new tools. So this is the first one, expansion to new sites. So in red you have the current sites, 8, and we have selected future pilot sites, and we also want to extend the coverages of the first study areas to national scale, such as Madagascar, for example. So we cover about 3 tiles, and as a total, Madagascar has something like 30 tiles that contain mangroves. So we want to ramp up and have the same type of services for the whole of Madagascar, but also for the whole of Cambodia, because we have new partners in Cambodia. We have a colleague of ours that is in Cambodia since last year, and we have a project to it's about 5 or 6 tiles to include the whole of Cambodia. We have a pilot site at study in Vietnam, in India, in Benin. Gabon also is projected to expand to the national scale of Gabon, and study site in Suriname and French Guiana in Brazil. French Guiana, we already have it, but we have to extend it. And Suriname and Brazil, and really northern Brazil, and Pará and Amapá, for those who know Brazil, so that we can have Amazonian mangroves covered as a whole from Suriname to Brazilian Amazon. In Vietnam, for the expansion, we have been waiting for several months now for the SCO and CNES position on the project of expansion of phase 2. So we really hope that we should have the fundings we need to give body to these perspectives in the very next weeks. And we hope to be able to have this expansion upgrade really as a next step. The work package 2, so we have prepared webinars and workshops, and in terms of training, we have 2 types of webinars. We have first one, sorry, someone's at my door. So we have a first one that is meant to train end users to handle the platform. So it's a short training of 2 hours. Well, basically, we explain the project, and we go through the same steps you saw, but online, with the platform online, with the attendance, with the participants. And we have also built and tested and realized the first edition of an advanced training in the spirit of course, of the FP Cup working group on Africa, training of trainers. So this is we did this in Madagascar in September, and it lasted, I think it was the whole day. So we give access to the back office interface of the platform, and we go more into details with the participants. And we will organize regular webinars with end users once we have our phase 2 funded and launched, so we can collect user feedback and use it to improve the platform. In terms of partnerships, so we have 2 types of partners. We have, as I mentioned, we need a baseline reference of mangroves to initiate a new site. So we need to have a collaboration with a local partner. It's more scientific collaboration on the first mangrove vector that we will consider to train the threshold processing we apply to the data. So this is a small network of scientific partners of the platform that are more involved in the life of the platform. And we have a second type of partners that we want to consolidate is those relays we depend on to organize the webinars, because we cannot be present at all times in all sites. So we need to have another more extended network of partners to MangMap that have this role of information and awareness and organizing with us webinars that we can provide the webinar with, and we can, of course, and that's what we do, organize webinars with the local partners, but we need these relays. The third work package is on the evolutions, the development and evolutions that we plan on the website and the platform. So I mentioned the tutorials. We still do not have a full list of finished tutorials, but we're working on it. In the phase 2 program, we also have a bit of funding that we will reserve to offer a service through the website for interactive educational handling of the platform, so that we can diversify our activities of training with webinars on one side, as I mentioned, but also on the website itself, it will have a special maybe course on how to use the platform. And of course, we'll need to update the website as we expand geographically. On the platform itself, we already have a short list of improvements we want to bring to the platform in terms of ergonomics and discovery and navigation of data. But we also have initiated with another funding source, a new service that we would like to launch maybe next year or at the end of this year. We are having a proof of concept right now that is being developed to have an alert system for deforestation. Whenever you so the users will, typically the user will import or set an area of interest, and very simple, as you saw, everything is meant to be very simple as possible in the platform. A very simple window to specify the alert in time. And then the user will receive notification if the system identifies a high probability of deforestation in mangroves. That will direct him to the platform so that he has some documentation on it. So we're working on that, and we hope that it will be online as soon as possible. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Yes,
so
sorry.
Thank you very much, Jean-François, for your presentation on the platform. I see that we have one question in the different question in the chat. The first one is from Alex Agua. Can you see the question? Asking if there is any WFS, WMS link or API to functionality on the platform to have it inside the platform application. So it's a technical question.